Hello dear subscribers and watchers, what's up? This is me, Vivs from slidenerd here. In this video, I'm going to talk about local variables versus instance variables in Java. Now we are going to talk about what are local variables, what are instance variables, and why the hell should you bother yourself with these two things in Java. So first, let's talk about the variable lifecycle in Java with the help of a simple example. What I have here is nothing great, just a class circle. It has a variable double radius 1.0, double area 1.0, and there's a method called double get area. Inside this method, I've calculated it by saying 3.14 into radius, which is this, into radius, and that is being stored inside this variable double a. And then we say area equals to a, which is this area over here. And then ultimately we try to return a. Now inside my main method, let's try to see how this works. Now when I say circle C equals to a new circle, in the initial state, this is what is going to happen. It's going to be our main method. There's going to be C, which is this reference over here. That's going to point to a circle object because we have said new circle over here. This circle object contains radius equals to 1.0, which is the default value for the radius variable, and area is 1.0, which is the default value here for the area variable. Now in the next step, when we say C dot get area, what happens when the method runs? On the left hand side, things remain the same. On the right hand side, the radius is 1.0, area is 1.0, but this time the method is running here, which is our double get area. That means this double a, this temporary variable double a, has come into existence temporarily as long as this method runs. So once we finish running this method and we complete our program, what happens? We are back to the same state on the left side, but on the right side, notice carefully, there is radius 1.0, there is area 3.14, which is actually because of this statement area equals to a, where a is 3.14 into 1 into 1, and hence area is 3.14. Now what do we guys understand by this? So these variables at the top, radius and area, exist as long as the program runs, or as long as your main method runs in this case. But this variable double a comes into existence only while this method double get area is running, and goes out of existence once that method has finished running. Now this is called the variable lifecycle in Java. So let's try to take a deeper look at these different types of variables out here and try to understand how they work. So first, let's talk about local variables. A local variable is any variable that is declared inside the body of a method. In my case here, double get area, if I say double area is 3.14 into radius, this becomes a local variable. Here, what I have is another type of local variable called parameter variable. If you guys notice this value, double radius, anything inside the method header within its parentheses that acts as the parameters of that method becomes a parameter variable. Local variables must be initialized before using them. Parameter variables are initialized when the method is called. Like you saw, we said my circle dot get area, and in the bracket we said 3.5, and then here, so that 3.5 goes from our main method on the left side to this double radius parameter here on the right side. So that is about local variables and parameter variables. Again, let's take a simple example, try to understand. Of a class circle with a get area method. Double radius is my parameter variable, double area here is my local variable. So when a method runs, its local and parameter variables come to life. When the method exits, they die. That's as simple as that. So here when I say my circle dot get area 3.5, this blue colored block over here represents this method double get area. So inside this method, double radius comes to life, which is this parameter variable. 3.5 is put inside this variable. Then I say 3.14 into radius, that goes inside my double area over here, which have shown by this yellow box over here. Ultimately, when I say return area, the value of area is returned back to our main method, or this place where it is getting called. And that means this radius and this area variable are accessible only inside the blue colored box. Now let's talk about instance variables. Now object of a class is called instance of the class in Java. So here if you take an example again, class circle double radius. Now take a careful look. This double radius is defined outside any and every method that you can have inside the class, but it's inside the class circle. Any such variable is called an instance variable, or it is a direct property of the object circle. So here the properties of a class or data stored by an object is called instance variables. For example, if you had student over here, you could probably have the name, the address, the date of birth, or the marks as instance variables here outside every method but inside the class. So every object has its own copy of instance variables. In other words, this radius is different for every object. Let's take an example and try to understand that. When I say circle my circle is new circle, and I say my circle.radius is 5.2, what I have is my circle object with a radius value of 5.2. When I say circle your circle is new circle, and I say your circle.radius is 8.9, then notice that this radius value of your circle is a different copy than the radius value of my circle in terms of value and in terms of where it is located in the memory. And that's how instance variables work. So instance variables need not be initialized. You can directly say something like this, double radius. But if you're trying to access it inside a method, that's probably gonna cause a problem. And you use a constructor to give values to the instance variables. Now, if you guys don't know what a constructor is, don't worry too much about it. We'll be talking about constructors in the upcoming videos in this playlist. So if not initialized, then the instance variables are given default values. For example, the numbers have a default value of 0, all the objects have a default value of null, and boolean has a default value of false. So instance variable is alive as long as the object is alive, like we saw in the first slide where I showed you that the instance variable radius and area was living throughout the complete process of running of the main method. But the methods were getting called and the temporary variables inside them were being created and being destroyed as soon as the method exited. So when objects are no longer used, they are destroyed by a process called garbage collection in Java. And we'll be talking about this in a little more detail, so don't worry too much about this at this point. So instance variables having default values. Now let's take a look at this example here. I've set string name and I'm not given any value, which means by default this will have a value of null because it's an instance variable and instance variables have default values. So inside the display method, if I say name.length, this is gonna give an error because name has a special value called null. Null means it refers to no object at all. It means it's not pointing anywhere. So you cannot call methods on reference variable whose value is null. So if you have anything over here and that is null, you cannot call a method like name.length on that variable. It's gonna give an error, java.lang.null pointer exception, which if you ask me is the worst exception a programmer faces all the time when programming with Java. So parameter variables, bad style. Now last but not the least, let's take a look at what is a good style of programming and what is a bad style of programming. So I'm gonna have a same method deposit over here. It has a parameter variable int amount, and I say amount is balance plus amount. Same here on the right side, deposit int amount, and here I say double new balance is balance plus amount. In other words, here I've used this amount variable, added the balance, and stored the result inside the same amount variable. But here I've added the balance to the amount and stored it in a new variable. So the first question to you, should you use the approach on the left or the one on the right? Well, the recommended approach is the one on the right because you are not supposed to modify this int amount. In the left side here, when you add balance plus amount and you store the result inside amount, you're modifying the value of the original amount which was passed inside the method. And that is a bad practice because this line right below may be depending on this original value of int amount over here, and you don't want that line to ruin its code just because you modified something here. So always keep in mind that when you have parameter variables, try to create new variables that tamper, or you can say modify those variables in some way rather than modifying the original variables. So treat parameter variables as if they are constants and don't assign new values to them. So this is the simplest statement. Don't assign new values to this parameter variables here. Instead use a new local variable. So this is all we had to talk about variable lifecycle in Java. So hopefully you guys have understood what are the three types of variables, how they work, and how long they exist in memory. If you guys do like what you saw, please like this video, share this video, let us know your thoughts in the comment boxes below, and subscribe to our channel. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching.